All right, let's have a look. Welcome, my friends, to this Saturday on this 4th of July weekend. What is 4th of July? What does it mean to you? For some, it can mean food and drink and friends and lighting up the sky. For others, it can mean proclaiming, "Where are my rights under the Constitution?" For others, it's a time to retreat. For others, a time to dress in uniform and raise a flag, and we are all one country and one people. I believe the authors who wrote the Declaration of Independence, those who declared that one did not have to earn life and liberty, but were endowed with it at birth, meant it to be a yardstick, to be used throughout time for all of us to place our backs against, shoulders pressed in, head raised, for the mark to be etched into the doorframe behind us, anxiously turning around then to see how far we've grown toward the promise of freedom, equity, and justice for all. Is committing and striving towards this not the essence of what the Declaration asks us to be as Americans? Welcome to this day, this time to celebrate the founding words of our nation and to measure ourselves against them. Welcome. It is my great honor to introduce Dr. Khalil Abdur-Rashid this morning. I met Khalil at the Black Lives Matter rally. He's a dear friend of the Qureshis, and he spoke there, and he was extraordinary. The words you said, Khalil, lifted us to different places together. And I asked him if he would be willing to give us another perspective on independence as a Muslim person of color who is also the first-time university Muslim chaplain at Harvard University, instructor of Muslim studies at Harvard Divinity School, and a public policy lecturer at the Harvard Kennedy School of Government. He serves all Muslim students at Harvard, serves on the Board of Religions, Spiritual and Ethical Life at Harvard, and manages the staff of the Office of the Chaplains at Harvard University. Born and raised in Atlanta, Georgia, he completed his doctorate in liberal studies in American Islam from Southern Methodist University and holds both a master in Islamic law and Middle East studies, as well as a master of philosophy in Islamic law and Middle East studies from Columbia University in New York City. He earned his bachelor's degree in social work from Georgia State University and worked for the state of Georgia as a social worker for several years. He then pursued Islamic studies academically and traditionally, which led him overseas to study for numerous years in the Middle East and in Istanbul, Turkey. While in Istanbul, Khalil pursued a master's degree in comparative Islamic law at Marmara University and completed 2 advanced Islamic seminary doctoral licenses in Islamic sciences. Phew! You are quite an accomplished man, Khalil. Welcome, Khalil. It is an honor to have you with us today. We'd love to have you say a few words of introduction for yourself, Khalil. Can we unmute him, Elizabeth?
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Reverend Linda Simmons, and good morning to all of you on this 4th of July weekend on this Sunday, July 5th. What's close to my heart these days in the times that we're in is how we can best reimagine community and proximity in the time that we're in the midst of a time of isolation, in the midst of a time of remembrance of individualism and community itself. And when those things have come into conflict or perceived conflict with each other. The pandemic, which has ushered in national social distancing, has translated into various forms of isolation and estrangement amongst many people. At the same time, racial injustice and the images we have seen this summer so far has also presented a challenge to proximity, and the fact that we are seeing people treated in ways that we would not want to be treated. and we see people treat others in the ways that they would not want to be treated. Coming into contact and encountering racial injustice and racial violence highlights the various ways that we've separated ourselves from each other as a society in different ways.
Khalil, I just want to interrupt you for a minute and say your sermon time is coming.
Okay.
Is this your introduction, or you
just a brief introduction?
Okay, thank you. I didn't want you to be confused. Please go on. Please go on.
I just wanted to, thank you. It just, in this time, I thought it would be very beneficial to talk about spirituality and community in this time of COVID and racial injustice that we're in, which both require new ways for us to think about how to come together and how to be together in imaginative ways. So I look forward to speaking to all of you about that today briefly. Thank you so much, Linda.
Thank you, Khalil. So sorry to interrupt you.
You're fine.
I wasn't sure if you had an order of service. It's an interesting time not being able to be together. And it's such an honor and privilege to have you today. Thank you so much for joining us. And the only announcement I would like to add is that on Wednesday at 6 p.m., there's an interfaith service of solidarity, which is, for Farah Deleuze and Garfield Blois from SHIM, Servant's Heart International Ministries, and musicians from all over the island, and Rabbi Gary and Father Max and I are doing a whole service with the recognition that we haven't had much leadership in how to hold our grief at this time, and also much leadership in the path towards healing. So please join us. There's some announcements everywhere, and NCTV is producing it and filming it live for us. So we hope that you can be there. And now we will light our chalice. Before you unmute yourself, I'll just remind you that it says, "With this flame, we renew our commitment to justice, peace, and compassion." And Gary?
With this flame,
renew our commitment to justice, peace, and compassion.
And now we will sing together as best we can the information as printed in your order of service. One thought about Zoom singing. Last week I mentioned that the yellow box, the way sound works over Zoom is that whoever's sound is most dominant gets highlighted by the Zoom computer program, and everybody else's sound gets squashed a little bit so the speaker can be heard. As we're singing together, it's a song, so Zoom doesn't have time to compress the sound fully. As we're singing together, you can hear each other a little bit. Be conscious of how close you are to the microphone, and you can play with this. If we're in the middle of, move your singing voice right up to your computer or phone, then the yellow box will click onto your square and your sound will be featured prominently. If you pull a little bit back, your sound will fade into the background. Making music together over Zoom is possible if everybody in the group is aware of this, and you kind of bring your sound in and out by how close or how far away you are from the microphone. If my piano sound starting to get squashed, pull back, because that's what's keeping us all together. So this is maybe our second week experimenting a little bit more deeply with singing together. So let's play with it a little bit. Now we'll sing the affirmation together.
Let faith and love of us, let beauty Good song from every tongue. Amen. Good.
Thank you, Nigel. I just realized that's a beautiful sermon title, The Yellow Box. I think there's so much in there. I'm looking to draw people in to do sermons with me. So Nigel, the yellow box, you and I.
Go for it.
All right, my dears, it's time that we greet one another. But before we do, we ask if you are new today or returning after a long absence, please either raise your hand or just unmute yourself, and we will love to see you and hear you and greet you in good UU style. Invitation only, of course, but if you are new today or returning, let us know. Good, just us chickens? All right. Please unmute yourselves now and say hello to one another.
How very nice to see Dr. Natalie with us.
Oh,
Yes. Hi, Natalie.
Now I can't see her. I thought we were talking earlier. Hi, Natalie, if you're out there.
he's out there.
Natalie has to be unmuted.
What a bang up job.
Good morning, everybody.
Hey, Natalie.
Hello.
You did a great job yesterday. It was wonderful.
Yeah,
Fabulous job.
Yeah.
Great.
that was Cynthia's doing. Boy, is Cynthia here? My gosh, she worked her
Yeah.
heart out on that.
Good job, Cynthia.
Cynthia! Thank you, my dear.
It's my great pleasure. Really. I'm so pleased with
It's
it.
Elizabeth.
Oh, there she-
Elizabeth Santoro.
Elizabeth Santoro saying hi to Judy. I just
Where
saw
are
her.
you? Hi, Elizabeth.
Under Elizabeth. I'll put my video back on.
You in Dickeron Island?
No, she's in Connecticut.
No,
Sound
I'm
isn't working.
It's good to see you. Hi. Hi.
waving at you.
We can't
Wonderful
see Elizabeth.
Kiki doing yoga. That's a good kid.
All right, my loves. We have our first hymn now.
So now we'll sing our first hymn, and for this we will remain muted. I want to give credit to the choir for pre-recording these hymns. Every week we get together and make this music for you guys to sing along with on Sunday. Our first hymn is Winds Be Still. We'll sing all 3 verses. You can find the sheet music attached to the order of service sent out in the email every Sunday morning.
Storm clouds pass and silence comes.
And Miss Natalie, if you could unmute yourself.
All right. I'd like to read a poem. It's called Lead by Mary Oliver. And here is a story to break your heart. Are you willing? This winter, the loon came to our harbor and died, one by one, of nothing we could see. A friend told me of one on the shore that lifted its head and opened its elegant beak and cried out in the long, sweet savoring of its life, which, if you have heard it, you know it is sacred, and for which, if you have not heard it, you had better hurry to where they still sing. And believe me, tell no one where that is. The next morning, this loon, speckled and iridescent, and with a plan to fly home to some hidden lake, was dead on the shore. I tell you this to break your heart, that it break open and never close again to the rest of the world.
Thank you, Natalie. You broke my heart with the way you read that. Please join me now for a moment of meditation and reflection. Spirit of life and love, we come before you now, longing for a peace, a grace, a freedom that we have not yet known as one people, and we are American. We come to you born in Africa, India, Europe, Asia, the Middle East, and from these very lands, once so unspoiled, and we are American. We are humanist and Jewish, Muslim and Christian, pagan and atheist and Buddhist and UU, and we are American. We fought for our country and we laid down our weapons in protest, and we are American. Amongst the division of our days, we've struggled in poverty and accepted the profits of wealth, and we are American. We are owners of weapons and work for lives to have more rights than guns, and we are American. In the challenge of our days, we long for our country to be a Thanksgiving, and we mourned as the sanctioned few fill all the seats at the table, and we are American. In this polarized season, we are Democrat and Republican, we are libertarian and independent, we are green, and we are so tired of it all. And we are American. Spirit of hope, grant us pride in our differences and ears and minds open to our divisions. Bequest that, beginning in this community, we may honor one another's truths and know that a just and faithful tomorrow begins here with us in our minds and hearts. Amen.
Now it's time for our middle hymn. And before we start this one, I have a couple of things to say about it. This is a new song, relatively speaking. We sang it together a few weeks back. It's a song by an African artist named Osibisa. The title of it is Woyaya, which in the Ghanaian language of Ga means we keep going, which is a perfect message for these times. The lyrics are short, so I'll say them to you one time before we start to sing together. And we will play this song as the middle hymn for our services for the month of July. My hope is that as a congregation, we can learn it and hopefully sing it together when we come back to our meeting house and get to sing in person again. The lyrics are, we are going. Heaven knows where we are going, but we know within. And we'll get there. Heaven knows how we will get there, but we know we will. It will be hard, we know, and the road will be muddy and rough, but we'll get there. Heaven knows how we will get there, but we know we will. And the chorus is Wayaya. So this first time, sing as much as you can, listen to the shape of the song, listen to how the words repeat, and as we hear this song more often, it will become more familiar, and again, we'll be able to sing it together when we come back to the meeting house.
Thank you. That was so exciting. I love new things. Thank you all so much for bringing that to us with such joy. And Dr. Khalil Abdur-Rashid, you are up, my friend. And I saw the Qureshis are here too. I'm so excited. Are you unmuted, Doctor? Great.
Thank you so much. Good morning, everyone. Community functions best when it rallies behind a common cause, one that truly galvanizes everyone, all of its members, young and old alike. And it ushers in a profound transformation in how the members of that community live, the virtues that they espouse, the goals that they pursue, and the meanings of life that they bring into existence. Much like the original common cause that gave birth to our nation, the removal of tyranny in the pursuit of justice, we now have a new moral duty, a new communal duty to recognize new forms of tyranny and new forms of injustice that exists amongst us as a nation. Supporting the cause of eliminating these new forms of tyranny and injustice in our own communities, the injustice of racial violence, the injustice of structural and institutional mechanisms that facilitated and enable it. These represent some of the new ingredients of our modern common cause in 21st century America. In Muslim scripture, if I may share something with you, it tells us to help the oppressed by coming to their aid and help their oppressor by stopping them from oppressing. As a community, we must operate on two fronts, helping those that need our help and working hard as a collective to eliminate the obstacles that contribute to the injustice of members of our own community. Community involves proximity and the challenges to proximity, which requires not only reimagining what it means to be a community, but reimagining what it means to be proximate. Racial injustice, racism is a challenge to proximity too. Communal violence is also a challenge to proximity. Division and discord are further challenges to proximity. If these challenges persist, then we become a nation, we become a community that is divided, alienated, separated, confederated, and dilapidated, unable to build up each other on account of spending too much time tearing each other down. Proximity, which includes nearness not just in relationships to other people, but also nearness in space and in time, requires cultivation. And therefore, in us cultivating new forms of proximity with each other, it necessarily requires that we thin the veil that is between us, that we tear down the walls that divide us, and we renew our proximity to each other, to the places that we live in, and to the time that we are part of, by seeking new forms of proximity to the divine through proximity to those that are forgotten and marginalized and those that have been left aside. Muslim scripture also teaches, quote, "If you seek proximity to me, to the divine, you will find me with the weak and forgotten. Truly, as a community, you will be aided and provided for on account of your proximity to these communities," end quote. Therefore, remembering our interconnectedness is crucial to cultivating proximity. That involves regular checking in with each other. Remembering our interdependence, not just our interconnectedness, but our interdependence. In a time where, as a nation, we are recalling our independence is very crucial. Remembering our interdependence is often reinforced through cultivating and developing consistency in random acts of kindness that we do for each other. Transcending the self and finding beauty in the happiness and the well-being of others, especially those we don't know and may not know well, is part of the true essence of community and the cultivation of proximity. And above all, remembering the closeness of the divine in all of us. Remembering that the worst thing that we can do is to forget the one that never forgets us. And in the treatment that we offer to one another, we should treat each other based upon the perception, our perception, of seeing the divine in each other. And therefore cultivating a relationship with that person, whether known or unknown, whether the neighbor or the stranger, is intrinsically tied to our pursuit of a better connection to the divine in all of us. And therefore, we must also endeavor to create spaces and opportunities for grief and for healing that allow us to share narratives and stories and embrace opportunities to come together, bring people together, to unite our hearts through symbolism, through narratives, through art, and other forms of creative human expression, expressions that equate to the facilitation of binding us together as servants of the divine, as members of the human community. Supporting celebrations of life, supporting virtuous memories and grieving of lost loved ones, remembering the good that they have done, the good that was in them, and honoring their legacy so that we never forget our obligations to those that are alive and to those that shall one day live. That is part of our moral and ethical duty to each other in these times that we live in. This, I dare say, is part of our common cause today. And therefore, in closing, what I would like to advise myself and all of you is that it is not enough to only hope and pray for change, but we must continually activate change and be the change that we hope to see in others. We must hold ourselves and others accountable for the actions and the inactions that contribute to new forms of tyranny and injustice. And we must never let up. We must never succumb to mediocrity. We must always work diligently to uphold the common cause of living better together, cultivating new forms of proximity to each other, so that liberty and justice truly are and truly can be for all. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Dr. Abdur-Rashid, for filling our hearts and minds. Let's take a moment of silence to let these profound and beautiful words be with us more. Take a moment. As we begin this call to offering, I'm so filled up by Dr. Abdur-Rashid's words. And I remember that this is our cauldron. This place that we gather in together is our cauldron where we each bring our griefs and gratitudes, our awarenesses and our blindnesses, our hopes and our dreams. And we mix with one another. We open our hearts to one another so that we might not only receive what we need to be better people and to feel whole, but receive what we need so that we have the strength and the courage to reach out to others. Dr. Rashid's reminding of that we seek others who are not us, not to fulfill our needs, but to fulfill the need that we were born for, to find the beauty and the holiness and the sacred in all people. That seems the fulfillment of a deep, deep mission, a deep purpose. And so I ask you today to be generous, because one of the ways we keep each other going is financial as well. So I ask you today to give of your heart and mind, to give of your weaker and stronger places, to open up some of your vulnerability, to hear and feel what you might need to hear and feel, but cannot yet find the ears to do so. And to also support this gathering that we work so hard to be loving and opening, challenging and comforting. Thank you.
Thank you, Linda. So I'm putting in the chat the information for being able to, you can go to unitarianchurchnantucket.org, or if you're mailing a check, the PO box. I will share my screen and show you how you can, once you've clicked on unitarianchurchnantucket.org, it will bring you to this page. Up at the top right corner, there's the contribute button. When you click contribute, it will then bring you to our Tithely account. Here, you type in the amount and then you click, and then you choose which you're doing, July 4th, Sunday offering, pledge, or a gift. And then you're able to say where the money is going to. And then there's the down arrow, or you can scroll to finish filling out the rest of the information. At the very bottom of the page, there is a PayPal account, but we would suggest that you do the Tithely up at the top right, because then it prompts you for entering the information as to where you would like to donate today. So thank you. Nigel?
Just one second, just want to say one more thing. There's a text to give button up there too. And if you put that text number, if you save it in your telephone, you can just text that and then you come up right to the very same screen that Elizabeth just showed you. So it's just another option that we're happy to provide for you. Sorry, Nigel, go ahead.
No problem. Our musical offering today is a lovely little piano piece by German composer Cornelius Gerlit, who I played last week as well. And this one is entitled Miniature. And our final hymn is a song that the choir recorded a couple of months ago now. We've been doing this for 3 or 4 months. Blue Boat Home. And the last thing I'll say today is that every week the choir gets together and records these hymns for us to sing along with on Sunday morning. If you would like to join, if you would like to participate, it's pretty simple. We have been doing a short Zoom rehearsal on Thursday evenings to run over the music and answer any questions. The choir records themselves singing along on Friday and Saturday mornings, and then I put all the sounds together and we play that on Sunday morning. I would really encourage anybody who's at all interested to give it a try, see if you like it. It is a new way of reimagining community and proximity. So here is Blue Boat Home.
Roll I tried and dark and stray. I've been sailing all my life now, never harbor or port have I known. The wide universe is the ocean I travel, and the earth is my blue boat home. Sun, my sail, and moon, my rudder, as I fly the starry sea.
Leaning over the edge in wonder, casting questions into the deep.
Drifting here with my ship's companions, all we kindred pilgrim souls, making our way by the lights of the heavens in our beautiful blue boat home. I give thanks to the waves upholding me, hail the great winds urging me on. Greet the infinite sea before me, sing the sky my sailor's song. I was born upon the fathom, never harbor or port have I known. The wide universe is the ocean I travel, and the earth is my blue boat home.
Khalil, if you could unmute yourself, my friend. Khalil is going to do the benediction or the blessing today.
Let us pray. Our God, God of mercy, God of love, God of justice, God of all creation, we praise you, devote ourselves to you, and we ask the following of you in this time of great trial and great need. Protect our families, our communities, all the residents in our cities, in our country, its institutions, the migrants, immigrants, children, young and old. Grant our community, our neighborhoods, our country, our city, its leaders, its families. Grant us all strength, wisdom, and solidarity so that we may lead and serve and shape our communities in the best and most beautiful of ways. Make us all strong allies of truth and justice, positive advocates for righteousness, strong in faith and hope, educated in the knowledge and practice of building up peaceful, viable, solid communities. Protect us, strengthen our hearts and bonds. Help us to show up, to stand up, to build up, to lift up, to raise up, and to help up those around us and in our midst, including those that are downtrodden and broken, forgotten, and oppressed in our communities along the way. Give us reverence for the sacrifice and struggle of those in this country who have fought against injustice and oppression and tyranny, and who have shed their sweat, blood, and tears and lives, who've lost their breath so that we can breathe, who've given their seats so that we can recline, who have marched and sacrificed so we can vote, who have braved the mountains of hate so that we can rest in the valleys of love and hope. Gift us all of these things and much more in our hearts, in our homes, in our communities, in our cities and nations. In your name we ask and pray, for you alone are worthy of all devotion and all praise. Amen.
Thank you, Khalil. You have filled me up and restored my faith. Thank you so much, Khalil, for joining us today.
Thank you.
And it is time for our chalice extinguishing. The words before you say them are, carry the flame of peace and love until we meet again. Please join Gary, and you can unmute yourselves, please do, for this section.
Carry the flame
of peace and love until we meet again. Hi, Paul.
I'm here. I'm here.
Our postlude today is the first variation in a piano sonata by my main man, Mozart.
Thank you for your ministry today, Nigel and the choir. Thank you, Elizabeth, for your help. Thank you, Khalil, so much for the blessing of your wisdom and open-heartedness. And thank you all for being here. Never doubt that your presence here contributes to everything that we are and everything that we hope to be. You bless us by coming here, and so that we can find the courage and strength to bless the world. Thank you for being here today. And it is time for our breakout rooms. If you would like to unmute yourselves for a moment, if you're unable to get into the break, if you don't have time for breakout rooms. Khalil, I'm not sure if you'd like to join us in the breakout room. We get in groups of 4 or 5, and we just have smaller chats. We'd love you to join us if you have time, no pressure. And of course, you're all welcome. So
I am going to just...
Blessed day.
Blessed day to you, Khalil.
Yes.
Thank you.
Bye, everyone.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye, Susan.
Bye.
A wonderful day.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Bye.
I need to be host
Wonderful
again.
service. Bye, everybody.
Wonderful.
Bye. Bye.
See you. Bye. Are we doing breakouts or no?
Yeah.
We'll
Yes,
do
breakout
if people
rooms
would
in
like.
just a second.
Some
If you'd
people
like to
say.
stay, yeah. Go ahead and do that, Elizabeth, whenever you're ready.
Well, I need to be made host again.
Okay, my
Please.
dear. There you go.
Thank you.
I love
All right, I'm going to start the breakout rooms now. You guys can join if you would like. If it doesn't work, you can hang out and I will re-put you in a new group.